A billionaire sitting in the back of his luxury SUV never imagined that one rainstorm on a lonely road would change his life forever. His name was Richard Lawson, a man newspapers called the crown of Chicago real estate, a guy who had more skyscrapers in his portfolio than most people had shoes in their closets. He was young, powerful, and used to everything bending to his will. But on that night, when the sky ripped open and the storm slammed against his windshield, all that power meant nothing. His car sputtered, coughed, and died right there in the middle of nowhere. The driver kept hitting the ignition, muttering, "Sir, it's no good. She's gone." Richard tried his phone, no bars. The road was empty, black as ink, thunder cracking like some cruel joke from above. For the first time in years, fear crept in. An expensive SUV stranded in the dark that was bait for trouble. He leaned back, rain dripping from his tailored suit, and thought, this is how billionaires make headlines, robbed and dumped by the roadside. Then, headlights. A beat-up pickup truck slowed, reversed, and rolled down its window. Out leaned a young woman with grease on her cheek and a voice soft but steady. "Need help?" Richard's driver looked skeptical, but she stepped out with a flashlight and walked straight to the hood, like she'd been doing this her whole life. Her name was Elena Torres, and she wasn't the kind of woman Richard ever thought he'd meet. No designer clothes, no polished smile, just rolled-up sleeves, calloused hands, and an air of quiet competence. She studied the engine's side and said, "I can fix it. But not tonight. I'll need parts from my shop." She glanced at the empty road, then back at them. "You can't stay out here. Come to my place. It ain't fancy, but it's safe." Now, any billionaire would have said no. But Richard wasn't blind. He saw the storm clouds still rolling in, and he knew he had no better option. So they climbed into her truck. 20 minutes later, he was sitting in a modest living room that smelled like home-cooked food, something he hadn't felt in decades. Elena's mother warmed up a pot of stew, slid bowls in front of them, and said nothing more than, "Eat. You look hungry." For a man who dined with prime ministers, it was humbling. Richard found himself asking Elena, "You made this?" She laughed. "Yeah, I cook. I fix cars. I keep my mom from worrying too much. It's what we do." He smiled, and for the first time in years, the warmth in his chest wasn't from whiskey or winning deals. That night, he slept on a thin mattress with clean sheets, listening to the creaks of the old house. Strange thing, he felt safer there than in any penthouse he owned. He caught himself thinking of her the way she didn't flinch when faced with strangers, the way her hands didn't tremble over his expensive car engine. And when sleep finally came, it was her face he saw. Morning brought the clang of metal. Richard stepped outside, and there she was, hair pulled back, arms smeared with oil, crouched over his SUV. She worked with precision, tightening bolts, wiping sweat with the back of her wrist. He just stood there stunned. A billionaire used to women dripping in diamonds was now mesmerized by a mechanic with grease on her cheek. When she fired up the engine and it roared back to life, Richard grinned like a child. "You're incredible," he told her. Elena shrugged. "Been doing this since I was 15. My dad taught me before he passed. I just kept the shop running." Before they left, she insisted they eat breakfast. That's when Richard saw a little boy with sleepy eyes shuffle to the table. "This is my son Matteo," Elena said, spooning porridge into his bowl. Richard froze. He'd already started to feel something for her. Now questions swirled. Was she married? Where was the father? He didn't ask. He only watched her treat her son with a tenderness money couldn't buy. Back in Chicago, Richard tried to bury himself in contracts and boardrooms, but his mind kept drifting to the taste of homemade stew, the sound of tools clinking in a small shop, the way Elena smiled before she spoke. One night, he told his best friend Marcus, "I met someone." Marcus nearly spit out his coffee. "A woman. And she's not on the cover of Vogue." Richard ignored the joke. "She saved my life." Marcus leaned in. "Then don't waste time. Go after her. But if you're not serious, don't you dare play with her heart." So he drove back, no driver, no entourage. Found her under a car at Taurus Auto Repairs. She slid out, surprised. "Richard, right? What are you doing here?" He smirked. "Battery problem." She raised an eyebrow. "You drove 2 hours for a battery. Rich men don't waste gas like that." He chuckled. "I came for you." From that day, weekends were different. He'd hold tools for her, listen to her talk about tractors and engines, about how she dreamed of studying mechanical engineering but couldn't afford college. She never once asked who he really was, never once cared about his fortune. And that made him fall harder. But love stories aren't that simple, because in the background, someone else was watching. Veronica Steele, his longtime executive assistant. She'd been by his side for years, always hoping his heart would turn toward her. When she saw his new habits, smiling at his phone, skipping investor dinners, sneaking away weekends, her suspicion grew. She hired someone to follow him. When she held the photos in her hands, she nearly shook with rage. Richard gazing at Elena like she was the only woman in the world. A mechanic. "Nobody," Veronica hissed. After everything I've done for him, she dug deeper. Found out Elena was a single mother. Found Mateo's father, David Cruz, a laborer with debts and regrets. Veronica slid an envelope of cash across the table and whispered, "Go see her. Pretend you want your family back, and make sure someone sees you kiss her." David hesitated, but money talks. Days later, Richard received a link. Headline: "Billionaire's secret lover mechanic caught with X." Photos showed Elena and David outside her shop. Him leaning close, her laughing nervously, and then the kiss. Richard's chest tightened like a vice. Betrayal burned hot. He deleted her number, blocked her messages, and drowned himself in work. Elena was left in the dark. Calls unanswered, texts undelivered. She didn't know why until she saw the article. Heartbroken, she traveled to his office, eyes red, voice shaking. "I don't care if you hate me, Richard. Just let me explain." Inside, Veronica stood by his desk, in a tight dress hand on his shoulder, whispering poison. But when Elena walked in, everything froze. She poured out her truth. "David left me when I was pregnant. He showed up out of nowhere. That kiss you saw the photo, it wasn't love, Richard. It was a mistake, and I pushed him away. I should have told you everything, but I was scared. Scared you'd see me as broken." Richard crossed his arms, torn between rage and longing. Elena's voice cracked. "You gave me reasons to smile again. I didn't want to lose that. But maybe I already have." She turned for the door. That's when Richard's voice cut through the silence. "Wait." He pulled her into his arms. "I missed you more than I want to admit." Veronica's heels clicked furiously as she stormed out defeated. Days later, Richard received her resignation letter. For the first time, he realized you can't force someone to love you. 6 months passed. Richard stood under fairy lights at a small wedding, slipping a ring onto Elena's finger. Mateo giggled, throwing flower petals, while Elena's mother cried tears of joy. No press, no flashy headlines, just love, raw and real. Later, Richard handed Elena an envelope. inside an acceptance letter to the University of Michigan Department of Mechanical Engineering. She gasped, eyes wet. "You told me once it was your dream," he said softly. "Dreams aren't meant to die." Years rolled by. Elena graduated top of her class, opened a cutting-edge workshop under Richard's company, and filled it with young girls who once thought fixing cars was for boys. She'd smile at them and say, "Your hands are strong enough to build your future. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." And one afternoon, Veronica returned, married now, with a little girl clutching her hand. She asked if her daughter could train at Elena's workshop. Elena welcomed them without hesitation. Veronica broke down, admitting the scheme she had pulled years ago. Elena hugged her and whispered, "The past doesn't own us. Let's do better for the kids." That's the thing about life. It bends in ways you can't predict. One storm on a lonely road, one act of kindness, and everything changes. So here's my question for you. What matters more, the wealth you stack up or the compassion you show when no one's watching? Would you forgive someone like Elena? Or would you have walked away the moment you saw that photo? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear the truth. And hey, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and hit that subscribe button. Because another story is coming that might just change the way you see the world.